Eddie was brave. Eddie was wise. He won honors, trophies, medals, rewards, and awards, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for being injured and for acts of bravery during World War II. He was a hero in many ways and was never afraid of the things most people were scared of. Everything he touched turned to gold, and he was good at everything he tried. Exceptional, even. Everything except relationships, that is. This wound stemmed from a solemn vow to be unlovable. It was so deep, he would pass it down to his descendants, along with his bravery, showmanship, and excellent deduction skills. So, where did Eddie's belief in his unlovability come from? Eddie came from a long line of fishermen, sailors, and pirates. He also came into contact with the cryptid during his formative years that would cause a tear in his psyche that lasted a lifetime. A cryptid is an obscure creature, undocumented by science, usually with supernatural abilities. Some people believe seeing a cryptid is a rare occurrence. However, once your eyes are open to seeing the impossible, you become more susceptible to seeing things in all dimensions. Such was the case for Eddie. Eddie spent most days as a young man hanging out by the docks and cleaning up the boats where his father and uncle spent most of their time earning a living. Everyone had to earn their keep as soon as they were old enough to contribute. The men of the families would go out for months on the lobster and whaling boats, exploring the high seas and spending their days fishing and hunting for the biggest catches they could find. All hoped to earn enough to support their households throughout the year financially. Many families that immigrated to the small New England town of New Bedford, Massachusetts, were originally from the Azores and Cape Verdean Islands off the coast of Portugal. Since it was the first port of call, most ships took on supplies and crew from these islands off the coast, sparking a wave of Portuguese settlers arriving in New Bedford as early as the 18th century. While the men were off at sea, the women tended to the households, rearing children and working in mill factories that produced textiles for the garment industry. While some spent their lives this way, not all found this more traditional way of life suitable. The proximity to the port also allowed another profession to thrive here, perhaps the oldest profession in the history of time. That is the life and art of the prostitute, a woman who exchanges sexual favors for currency. On the edge of the water right by the docks, there was a large house, dubbed the Ark by locals, with the most precarious foundation. It was a house built on top of an old whaling boat that was too dysfunctional to be used at sea. One would marvel at the sheer mechanics of how this vessel could remain upright and not float out to sea when the tide would rise. It was kept upright by blocks of timber and steel. A 4-foot-wide walkway circled the building, and one set of stairs could grant you access aboard.